All right, boys, let's dive in. Okay, so here Rand is claiming that in this paragraph that today's intellectuals are advocating that there are no answers to key philosophic questions and problems. Don't know if that's true. There is a lot of toleration among our intellectuals. Yeah, okay, well, man is not necessarily depraved. He can be depraved, but he's not. He doesn't have to be. Also true, man does not have to suffer. Depends what we mean by suffering. I think you do have to go through pain for sure in order to get what you want because, okay, you for sure have to put in effort, and I think it's almost inevitable that effort, at some point, effort is going to be painful. Like it's going to be painful to try and get the stuff you want to get, to try and achieve your goals. Now, is that the same as suffering? I don't think so. Suffering seems to be involuntary, maybe. Anyways, I don't know. Uncertainty, dogmatist, self-righteous depravity. Okay, this seems to be like, okay. Rand is making a bunch of claims about our intellectuals, and I just don't know if any of it's true. Because I haven't listened to many intellectuals. Okay, so this paragraph. The two absolutes of today's non-absolutes are that ignorance consists in claiming knowledge and that immorality consists of pronouncing moral judgments. So I think this goes to skepticism and toleration, which is very common among today's intellectuals. So a ton of the new atheists and atheists in general are skeptics. They don't believe in certainty, or at least they don't believe in certainty to some degree, or that we can never obtain. Like you often hear like you can't you can never obtain or know capital T truth, but you can understand a little t truth or get closer to truth. So you hear that among a bunch of skeptics. I know Pinker's big on this, I think. Dillahunty, probably a few others. I'm sure many others. And then immorality consists of pronouncing moral judgment, so that's just moral relativism. If morality is subjective, then you can't claim that anyone is good or bad because it's all subjective to either the person, the group, the culture, etc. So to call anyone bad is, well, immoral, and it's intolerant. Now, if you have an objective standard of morality, then you have clear, bright lines between, oh, this person is good, this person is bad, and we should pronounce moral judgment. We should call out people when they're being bad, and we should praise people when they're being good, because they deserve it. Now, is this true? I think this is generally true. I would have to, again, I need to study more philosophy and more intellectual history and more of today's intellectuals to know if this claim's true, but it strikes me as fairly accurate given what I do know. So, all right. Rand is claiming that modern intellectuals are rationalizing fear, or they're rationalizing their fear away by claiming fear from. Let me take a step back. Modern intellectuals are rationalizing that the fear of dealing with these big existential questions and problems by claiming that there are no answers, there are no solutions, and so I don't have to actually like wrestle super heavily with this question. I can just hand wave it and say, oh, it's impossible to answer. Is that true? I don't know. Again, I don't know. It's a very damning claim, and I would have to read more philosophy to know that's true. I'm skeptical it's true with in the case of like not bigger name philosophers, like people just doing academic philosophy who aren't well known, because they're probably just like building on what they've been taught, which is, yeah, they're building upon what they've been taught. I don't think they're trying to rationalize anything. That's just what they think is true. I'm not sure about like bigger name philosophers like Kant, like Hume, like even the big name ones now, like why am I blanking? Singer, like the again, the philosophic leaders of different schools. Are they rationalizing? No idea. Haven't read their work. So again, there's a lot of claims here. Rand is making a lot of claims. I don't know if they're true. They dread the unadmitted knowledge that their culture is bankrupt. What does it mean? I don't even know what that means. So I know a lot of people would say, especially a lot of young people, I think they would agree with that. Like, yeah, our culture is bankrupt. So I mean, maybe our intellectuals are in denial of that, but I don't think that's the case for laymen. Yeah, okay, she is talking about intellectuals. They feel guilty because they know they have brought it to bankruptcy. So again, I don't know if this is, I don't know how true this is. Again, maybe with the bigger name philosophers, but for people just doing work in philosophy and teaching philosophy, I'm skeptical this is true, but I don't know. Okay, I don't think collectivism has died um, as a political ideal. Like, it seems to be making a resurgence. I mean, there's with like the rise of ethno-nationalists and the MAGA communists and like collectivism. I think is still alive, even though the we saw World War II. Altruism has never been alive. You know, this is a bit poetic, but I mean, altruism is the root. Well, actually, it's not. Mysticism would be the root of altruism, but Rand is claiming mysticism has largely died. I don't even know if that's true though, because I know like religion and Christianity is coming back among young people. Now, for what reasons? Is it are people coming to God from like a coming to faith? I think so. So I don't even know if that claim's true. Okay. I mean, I do agree. Like you have to reject and advocate against the fundamentals in philosophy. So, I don't know what's a good example. So, if people have disagreeing metaphysics, and you think one's true, one's false, very clearly, your metaphysics is going to determine the ethics you accept. It's going to determine, well, your metaphysics and your epistemology are going to determine the ethics you accept, which in turn is going to determine the politics you accept and the aesthetics you accept as good. So if the bottom of the pillar of philosophy, so to speak, is wrong or false, or you hold false ideas in those areas, that's going to have a cascading effect on everything else above it. And on like a cultural level, if the metaphysics and epistemology that the culture accepts are incorrect or false, then the corresponding ethics and politics and aesthetics that they accept are also going to be wrong and probably deeply wrong. So you want to go to the root, and you want to go to the root when you're talking about discussing and debating philosophy, especially if you want to make a cultural change. Okay, so Rand is just going to altruism. So doesn't altruism doesn't mean just being kind or nice or respectful or helping other people. It specifically means selfless action or self-sacrificial action, meaning I am doing something that is of no gain for myself or is at harm to myself. Altruism requires sacrifice. So I can help someone and I don't know, I can do a favor for a stranger or a friend because I feel good doing that. I get because I enjoy helping other people and creating a world in which, we help our friends, we help the people around us. But if I'm helping someone out of a sense of duty, out of a sense of, oh, I'm morally obligated to help this person, even if I'd rather be doing something else, or even if I really need to do something else right now. Of course, most people don't accept ethics. Most people don't accept a given moral code in consistently. Like, they're mixed. So some people are partly altruistic, partly egoistic, partly hedonistic. But on the whole, the culture is generally altruistic. And because of that, I don't even know where I was going with this. The culture is generally altruistic, but altruism does not mean helping other people. And this is a huge area of confusion. It's not just helping people, it's selflessly helping other people. Helping other people when it hurts you or is of no benefit to you, which is essentially, well, it's not the exact same, but it is very similar to hurting you, or it's very similar to taking an action that hurts you because you have to weigh trade-offs. So because because I'm working at a food pantry or something and not working on my career, I'm missing out on, building a career I really love. Now, of course, that's one example. And but let's say someone's consistently doing this and they're putting the needs of others above themselves, their own needs. Well, that's over the long term, even the short term, that's going to cause a lot of problems in their life, and they're going to be very unhappy as a result of doing that. So again, just to clarify, altruism does not mean helping other people. Helping other people is awesome, wonderful, love doing that, love being kind, love being a nice person. Altruism means selflessness. It fundamentally means selfless action, which is very bad. This is I think this is a really powerful way to put altruism. The basic principle of altruism is that man has no right to exist for his own sake, that service to others is the only justification of his existence, and that self-sacrifice is his highest moral duty, virtue, and value. And I think that really gets to the difference between altruism and just helping other people and being a nice person. Specifically, the part of that sentence, man has no right to exist for his own sake. You don't have a right under altruism to exist for your own happiness, to achieve your own goals because you want to, because they're good for you, because they make you happy. You only have a right to exist to serve other people, to serve some other entity. Could be God, could be the state, could be your neighbors, but it's something other than you, than your own happiness. that is altruism in its most consistent form. Now, nobody lives well, if you were to live consistently altruistically, I think you would have to die because altruism is about giving up values for other people or for some other entity. And the ultimate value you can give up is your life. Like, that is the most, your life is what enables you to do anything. So that would be the ultimate sacrifice. And you see this in the story of Jesus, right? He gives up. He's like I would say Jesus is a pinnacle. Is that the word? Poster boy? He's like the ideal of altruism. He gives up his ultimate value, his life, for the sake of other people. Jesus is altruism laid bare. Let me repeat that because I voiced correct. Jesus is altruism laid bare. He gives up his life, his ultimate value, for the sake of other people. So that's what altruism demands if you are to be fully consistent. Which I think is abhorrent, but that's just me. Oh, that's interesting. So kindness, goodwill, or respect are impossible under altruism. How? So kindness, being kind to other people, how can you not be? How can you not be kind to other people under altruism? That does not gel with me. Unless you hate being kind to other people. Actually, okay. Maybe she's assuming that like pretty much everyone enjoys being kind, and I think that's generally true. Unless you're in like a really shitty mental state. Like if you're psychologically healthy, being kind feels really good. Like it's nice to be. It's just nice to brighten someone's day. Feels good. But because it feels good to me to be nice to someone, to be kind, it wouldn't be selfless because I'm gaining in that. I'm gaining by being kind. I'm improving, making my life better to a small degree. For someone who hates being kind, I guess it would be selfless to be kind. That's interesting. So altruism is anti-self. It's anti-self. It's anti the self because self-sacrifice requires self-destruction, literally by definition. Self-sacrifice means loss, net loss for you, the person making the sacrifice. So, hmm. It's very interesting. Yeah, if you have no self, so like you give up. Mm, um, so altruism is all about giving up values, giving up, giving up the self, yourself, for the sake of other people or others. Which means if you're consistently altruistic, no value is possible to you because you're giving all of those up for some other entity. Again, typically other people. So values are literally impossible under altruism. Again, if you're consistent. Now, nobody's consistently altruistic because you would die. Um, unless you do give up your life. Um, and because altruism is anti-value, it is anti-life. Because you need a value. Okay, we're gonna get into a little. I'm gonna get into a little rant. So a value is something you act to gain or keep. I believe that's Aristotle's formulation of value, and that's value on its most like simplest conceptualization. Just something you act to gain or keep. So if you try to, like, if you're on a desert island and you're like, all right, I gotta find some water. Okay, you value water. You're trying to find whatever, gain water. You might also say, I need to build a shelter. Okay, you value shelter. You need to find food. You value food. And then likewise, in like a modern, not on a desert island, in civilized society, you might say, okay, well, I want to find, or I want to have a career that I really enjoy, that gives me a sense of meaning, that I make a good income from, that can sustain my lifestyle. You value all of those things. And I guess the big one, your career, because it gives you all of those things. You might value the relationship with your partner, or the possibility of having a partner, because that relationship can be a source of a lot of pleasure, a lot of connection, fulfillment, etc. So you value a romantic relationship. Same thing with friendships. So you value these things because you're trying to go out and gain them, achieve them. Altruism demands giving up values for other people. So again, all of this is assuming you're consistently being altruistic, which is impossible without giving up your life, because your life is the ultimate value, yada, yada. If because the essence of altruism is selflessness or self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice means sacrificing your values, and sacrifice means giving up a higher value for a lesser one or a non-value, something you don't care about, you don't want. So if you're consistently self-sacrificing or self-sacrificial, you give up all these things you want, all of these values, then you're not going to be able to live, because you need to pursue values to live and to flourish or to thrive. To live a really good life, you need to, right, I mean, think about it, like, what is a really good life? It's a really great career you love. It's if you want to have kids, a good relationship with your kids, a good family, typically a romantic partner, typically a lot of friendships that are really rich, some interesting recreational activities, good health, probably a couple of other things, but those are like the big buckets, okay? That's a good life. You need to go out but you don't get those things automatically. You have to go out, pursue them, and set goals in those areas, achieve those goals, set more goals, blah, blah, blah. Like it takes a lot of effort and action and thinking and planning in order to live a really, really good life. Altruism demands no, you have to subordinate all of that and in its most consistent form, get rid of all of that and instead just serve other people, selflessly serve other people at the expense of those things that would make your life really great. So altruism by its nature is anti-value and therefore anti-life. Yeah, this is an interesting point. So like you don't need to sacrifice, which is a controversial statement, controversial as hell, but life doesn't require sacrifice in anything. Again, sacrifice is different from trade-off. Sacrifice does not mean doing something in the moment that you don't really want to, or that's kind of hard or really hard, in order to get something later that's really good, that you really want. So it's not like working out when you really don't want to work out because you're going to feel good after and you're going to live longer, right? That's a trade-off or a trade. A sacrifice is giving up something you really want or that would be really good for you for something that is not as good for you, something you don't want or you don't want as much. So what would be an example? It's like if you want to be a musician, like that's your calling, that's your passion, that's your dream, but you feel called to, you don't feel called, but you feel obligated to pursue a career in, I don't know, helping other people or in service work, in something where where you think you'll make a bigger impact on other people, but you don't really want to, but you just feel like you're obligated to because you're supposed to help as many people as possible, right? That's a sacrifice because you're giving up what would make you truly happy. Even if you don't fully achieve your dream, at least going for it, that would make you really happy and would be awesome. For this other thing, helping other people, which again can be, or pursuing a different career because you feel obligated to pursue that career because it would involve helping more people. Like, why am I blanking on the word? Like humanitarian work, let's say. That would be a sacrifice. And if you stack those and continue to stack those, you're going to live a life full of regrets of like, man, I wish I had just gone after what I had wanted. But then if you go after what you want, you feel this guilt. You feel like, oh, well, I shouldn't be doing this because it's immoral. I should be doing something that would help more people. So, but you don't need to, like, there's nothing that says you should sacrifice for other people. I'm going to exclude religious arguments because A, I don't know religion very well, and B, that's the main thing. I don't understand religion very well, so I can't, whatever. You say, well, God tells you to be selfless, whatever. I'm not going to address those. But everything else, like in, let's just say, secular ethics, nothing says you have to sacrifice. You have to be selfless. Nothing. You ask why? Why should we be selfless? I can't think of a good answer. The only answer I've heard is that, well, that's what my parents told me, that's what society tells me, that's what my like the big cultural intellectual people tell me, or that's just what you should do. Like, you just should do that. There's no justification. There's no reason why you should be selfless, why you should be altruistic. And like, I mean, think about it. Like, two people can go their lives just pursuing their own happiness, pursuing their own goals, which does not mean screwing other people over, because that is self-destructive in the medium to long term. And honestly, it's self-destructive for your psychology in the short term. Well, it's self-destructive for your psychology in the short, medium, and long term, but it's also self-destructive for other areas in the medium to long term. So that doesn't mean you just screw other people. It means you pursue your goals honestly. You pursue what would be good for your life, what would actually improve your life, not just what would give you a momentary sense of pleasure. And yeah, you don't have to live in a sacrificial way. You don't have to feel this obligation to help other people when doing so would be bad for your life, when it would make you unhappy. And again, I'm not against, like, helping other people, awesome, when you want to, when it would be good for you, when it doesn't require you to sacrifice something else more important to you. Yeah, okay, Rand's getting into what I just explained, or at least I partly explained. There's one word, a single word, which can blast the morality of altruism out of existence and which it cannot withstand. The word why. Why must man live for the sake of others? Why must he be a sacrificial animal? Why is that the good? There is no earthly reason for it. Okay, earthly reason, so again, unless you appeal to religion, which that's a whole separate can of worms, you can't make a secular, sufficient argument for altruism. You're going to have to rely on subjectivism of some form, which basically means the good is whatever is what I feel like, whether that's what I feel like, what a group feels like, which a group can't feel, but whatever, or what a general culture feels like, etc. So and they still turn to generally secular philosophy turns to altruism as the ethics you should accept. You should just help other people, or not help. You should selflessly serve other people. Caught myself there. Excuse me. Rand is okay. This is super interesting. Rand is claiming that. Let me write the sentence first. By the way, so I've been ranting quite a bit. Not ranting or like going off tangents a bit on this stream. I should preface all of my tangents. I don't really know what the fuck I'm talking about. I am learning out loud, and I'm I'm figuring out how to like walk the line between being very definitive in my statements, because those will just go harder on for clips and on social media, and that's pretty important. while also being like, yeah, actually, like I'm generally very confident in what I'm saying when I'm being definitive, but I'm not an expert at philosophy, so I'm literally learning out loud and like trying to say what I think makes sense. So I guess as like a rule of thumb, and this should be a rule of thumb for whenever you're listening to anyone, is you want to critically analyze what they're saying because they could be full of shit or they could just be wrong. So like for like the two people watching this, I don't even know if there's anyone here. Like analyze the shit out of what I say because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I mean, I sort of do, but like I shouldn't say that. I do know more than the average Joe about philosophy, quite a bit more. But I'm not an expert at all. I've been studying this for 2 years. So bear that context in mind. Critically question what I say, question what anyone says if it doesn't make sense to you. If it does make sense, great. If it doesn't make sense, be like, fuck that, don't understand, ask questions. If the questions don't clarify, then just be like, yeah, you're wrong, I think you're wrong, and go with it. Oh, anyways, so back to this point. Rand is claiming that the basic contradiction of Western civilization is reason versus altruism. So let's do a little breakdown here. So reason and mysticism are, you could think of them as like two essentials of epistemology, and they're opposites. Reason is saying that we gain knowledge through sense data and coming up with concepts based on sense data, and perceptions. So we look out at the world, we see things, we perceive things, and then we form concepts based on those perceptions, and those concepts are legitimate. Sense perception is legitimate, and so because of that, we gain knowledge about the world through reason. And reason is basically the conceptual faculty. It is the faculty, like the portion of our brain or our mind, that enables us to form concepts, to form abstractions, to come up with ideas. Now, mysticism is kind of the opposite. I think it is the opposite. It is, I think the definition, like technically, is the claim to a non-sensory means of knowledge, meaning a means of knowledge without sense data as the base, without perception as the base. So that usually comes in the form of revelation. So, and this is very common in religion, prophets have revelations from God or like visions. It's not based on sense data, it's just granted to them. And that is how you gain knowledge or gain fundamental knowledge. Faith, the concept of faith is a mystic concept. You don't take something on evidence. You don't take something based on what you see. You simply accept something motivated by a feeling, like you accept something because you feel it's true, and you don't have any evidence for whatever you believe. This is probably sounding harsh, but I'm trying to illustrate the essentials of faith. Faith is basically belief in something without evidence, and it's motivated by feeling. So when often when I hear of like coming to Jesus moments or coming to religion in general moments, they have a spiritual experience, an experience they cannot explain, and they feel very strongly like they've spoken to God or have been made contact with God in some way, and it's a super strong feeling. And so from that experience, they then start believing. Now notice, there's no sensory evidence, there's no sense data, perception that justifies their faith or faith. It's purely, again, I'm speaking out loud, I could be wrong here, but I think it's purely based on feeling, a very strong feeling, a very powerful feeling, but a feeling. So that's an example of mysticism. It's knowledge, belief in God in this example, not based on sense data, either based on something else or not based on anything at all. which there isn't really anything else besides sense data, so it's based on nothing at all. um, so anyways, like, now I'll try to paint some broad examples. So the scientific enterprise, the scientific method and science as like an institution, totally based on reason, pretty much. I think entirely. It's like science is all about coming up with hypotheses, running experiments, making observations, like, which is perceptual in nature, like seeing what happens. Maybe if the experiment requires smelling, you smell it. That's a perception, or that's a sensation. Maybe something regarding sound. Like, it's all about sense data. And then from those experiments, you come up with a conclusion, which is very abstract often, and then whatever, you form concepts from there. Whole scientific enterprise is fundamentally based on reason. It's a reason-based enterprise. What would be something of mysticism? That would be like, I don't know, tribal ritual, where, think of a good example. Like any, all right, here's an example, I guess. So, like, I know for whatever reason the Aztecs are coming to mind, but like the Aztecs way back when, I know they practiced human sacrifice as like a literal human sacrifice for their gods in order to appease them and bring like probably prosperity to their civilization. That isn't based on any evidence. It's based on belief in God, which is based on faith, or belief in gods in their case. That is a mystical idea. Human sacrifice giving prosperity. Completely, it's not based on any facts, not based on any sense perception. It is, yeah, purely mystical. And you'll see this with most like primitive tribes and traditions, and rituals. They might serve an important function with the tribe, but they're often not based on anything that's factually supported. It's all just, we do this usually because of religious reasons. Yeah, the conflict of reason versus mysticism is the issue of life or death. That's literally true, because reason, like the faculty of reason, is how you live. You live and you survive and you hopefully thrive by like looking out at the world, making observations, coming up with a plan, executing the plan, reflecting on the plan, making changes, and repeating the cycle. But it's fundamentally based on thinking. You think. You go out, you set a goal. Goals are concepts. They're abstract things that you want to achieve. You set a goal. You think about, how do I achieve the goal? You think, you reason, you figure out a plan, you execute the plan. Maybe you fuck up horribly. Maybe you succeed. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. And then you reflect and you repeat the process either for a different goal or for the same goal, but you adjust the plan. But the fundamental thing that allows you to set these goals and achieve these goals in order to live, to literally live, to find food, to find water, to create shelter, like these things we absolutely need to just survive. The way you do that is through reason. So if you reject reason and say, nah, this thing ain't valid, bro, we ain't using this. We are whatever. We're gonna pray to our gods and hope they bring rain instead of go out and finding water at a new location. You're probably gonna die. and if not die, like early, and if not die quite shortly after accepting mysticism, it's not gonna be a great life. It's gonna be a very painful life filled with struggle and not achieving your goals, because you're literally rejecting the thing that allows you to achieve goals. So this is like reason versus mysticism is literally a life or death issue. And it's so, so important. Yeah, okay, here we go. Reason is the faculty which perceives, identifies, and integrates the material provided by man's senses, our senses, whatever. So, reason integrates man's perceptions by means of forming abstractions or conceptions, concepts, thus raising man's knowledge from the perceptual level, what we see and experience directly, to the conceptual level, which is abstract. And the method by which we do that by reason. The method which reason employs in this process is logic, and logic is the art of non-contradictory identification. So logic, I think, is just making sure, specifically in like the process of forming concepts, that when you form the concept, you don't engage in any contradictions, and then how do I put this? So when you form a concept, okay, this is difficult for me to explain. Let me think for a second. So concepts are built upon each other. Like there are first level concepts. So like you look out and you see a bunch of cats, or let's just say animals. No, let's say cats. Cats are first level concepts. So you see a bunch of furry things that, I don't know, 4 legs, they look a certain way, pointy ears, and you're like, and you see a bunch of similar things that are like that, and you're like, I think those are all cats. And then you identify the concept cat, and you label it as cat, and then you say all of these things that have these certain characteristics, whatever, walk on 4 legs, fur, pointy ears, they look a certain way to differentiate them from like dogs and other 4-legged animals, or animals that walk, 4-legged animals. You isolate all of those characteristics and you're like, all right, this thing is a cat. So that's one concept. And then from there, you can form concepts on top of concepts. So like maybe you see, all right, we have cats, we have dogs, we have hamsters, we have squirrels. What do all of these things have in common? And it's whatever. I'm not gonna lie. I need to read more about epistemology because this is really hard for me to explain. But basically, okay. Fuck. You form the concept of cats, you form the concept of dogs, you form the concept of a bunch of other animals, and then you take all of those concepts and you can form the concept of animal. So animal depends on all these other concepts which depend on the sense data you see. And then from there, you can say animals, we have plants, we have fungi. All right, we group all those together. That's like concept of living organism. So basically, like you can, concepts build upon each other. That's the gist. I need to work on explaining concept formation. But when you're the point I wanted to make is that when you're forming concepts on top of concepts, you need to make sure that they like logically integrate with each other, that there's no contradiction in the chain. What would be an example of a contradiction? I think if you included like a rock as an animal, okay, clearly this rock does not have concepts, or fucking hell, this rock doesn't have characteristics that, this rock is the rock is essentially different from the other animals. It's not alive. It's fundamentally it's not alive. It doesn't have like it can't move. There are other things. So if you included rock in your categorization, like if you included rock in the categorization of animals, that would be a contradiction, I think. I'm going to stop explaining this because I'm not doing a good job. I need to read more about epistemology before I try to riff on this. That's what I've learned. My epistemology is shit, but we'll work on that. That's interesting. So I've never thought of mysticism in this way, but mysticism is the claim to the perception of some other reality other than the one in which we live. Um, and the perception of this other reality is not natural. The reality, or the reality is not it's not the natural. It's not the reality in which we live. It's some other reality, and it can only be perceived by either unnatural or supernatural means. So revelation is a great example of this. That is literally God granting you a vision of something that's happening, or some knowledge of something. That is a supernatural means of knowledge. It is, by definition, above the natural world, which is impossible. Again, unless you're going to make unless you're going to prove God's existence by natural means, like all we see, everything, we exist in the natural world. Everything is nature. There is no non-nature. That would just be nothing. And so the only way to learn, to gain knowledge, is through natural means, is through reason. Like, again, unless you're going to prove God's existence through natural means, through like non-faith-based arguments, or through evidence, through argumentation, rhetoric, I don't think you can. Yeah, the supernatural just doesn't make any sense. Like, how could there be something outside of nature? Nature is all there is. So to claim something is outside of nature is a contradiction. Yeah. Yeah. So Rand. Okay. In light of the Industrial Revolution, nobody can take faith or religion or revelation or any form of mysticism as his basic and exclusive guide to existence, not the way it was taken in the Middle Ages. Yeah, I think science. I mean, of course, again, people are mixed, but I think what science and the Industrial Revolution and technology and all of these things based on reason, the Enlightenment, they've shifted. If you think of everyone as having mixed premises, mixed epistemological premises, like, we go by faith and mysticism in some areas, we go by reason in some areas, and there's different degrees, and it's all very chaotic and messy. The Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution and the whole success of science has, I think, pushed people in the West generally, their premises, toward reason, more toward reason than they were in the Middle Ages. Of course, still mixed. Almost nobody is consistent one way or the other in pretty much any philosophic premises. No, like almost nobody's consistent with anything. But the general makeup has shifted more toward reason because you can't deny the effects of science. You can't deny the improvement of the quality of life from capitalism, from the Industrial Revolution, from technology, because those are all based upon reason. So you can't deny reason, the effects of reason, entirely at least. You have to give it some credence, or at least more credence than you would have had to back in the Middle Ages. And even in the Middle Ages, don't blame those people for what they believed then, because they didn't know they didn't have the knowledge we had. They didn't have pretty much all they had was religion, I think. I mean, maybe some remnant. Yeah, they didn't have what we had, so I wouldn't blame them at all for the views they held. Okay, Rand is blaming Kant for the destruction of reason, fundamentally. Don't know if that's true. Haven't read Kant, but I will at some point. I need to read Kant. I need to read a bunch. I need to read everyone. Yeah, this is a very important sentence when dealing with philosophy. There are two ways to destroy the power of the concept. One, by open attack and open discussion, so having an argument and pointing out the inconsistencies in a concept, or either the irrelevancy of the concept, or the inconsistencies, or the contradictions, etc. So, and that's very legitimate. Just have an argument about something, about different points of view, perspectives, whatever, positions. See which one wins. Which one makes, by wins, I just mean makes more sense. That's a great thing to do. The other way is to subvert the meaning from the concept, subvert the meaning of the concept from the inside. So change the meaning of the concept over time, make it more vague, make it a straw man, make it not what it is, or not what it should be. I think, what would be an example of this? So I guess what Rand is claiming, Kant did this with reason. So he didn't attack reason as how Aristotle views it or how Rand would view it. He created his own version of reason, pure reason. And then, I guess he made two, I don't know Kant, but this is what I'm getting at is that he had like two views of reason, pure reason and unpure reason, I guess. So he confused the concept. He formed, well, okay. So the two ways to destroy the power or the legitimacy of a concept is to either have a debate and make arguments about the concept or about different positions on something and see which side makes more sense. The other is just to completely change the meaning of the concept, to set up a straw man version of the concept that is easy to beat. And then you do that, and then everyone assumes over time, general culture will assume that that concept is weak or invalid or has problems that don't actually exist, but they only exist because people, when they think of the concept, they think of the straw man version of it instead of what it actually is. So, and Rand is claiming in the case of Kant, he did that with reason. So he did not attack reason. He merely constructed a version of it, of what reason is, and made mysticism, I'm reading, this is a quote, made mysticism look like plain rational common sense by comparison. He did not deny the validity of reason. He merely claimed that reason is limited. So that it leads us to impossible contradictions, that everything we perceive is an illusion, and that we can never perceive reality or things as they are. I don't know. Yeah, okay. He claimed, in effect, that the things we perceive are not real because we perceive them. So I don't know. Again, I don't know if this specific claim about Kant is true, because I haven't read Kant, nor have I looked into commentary on Kant. But just looking at like what Rand is describing, yeah, he's setting up a straw man of reason, or he's changing reason and claiming it can't do all of these things, like it will lead to contradictions, and that yes, reason is about forming concepts based on our perceptions, but our perceptions are invalid, therefore our concepts are also invalid. And this has major consequences because if you invalidate perception, you invalidate all knowledge. If you say what we perceive is an illusion, it's not real, and we can never perceive what is actually real. Yeah, you're gonna be so fucking uncertain about anything if you like consistently accept that belief. You're gonna be like, yeah, I don't know. How do I know anything's true? How do I know what I'm seeing right now is real? How do I know if my wife is real? My friends are real? How do I know if I'm real? And you have all of these questions, you create all of this doubt, all of this uncertainty that makes it extremely difficult to act, to make decisions, to live, to feel happiness, because you're plagued by all of these doubts. Now, in practice, you have to still make decisions and act, otherwise you'll die. So people do still act with all of this doubt, and people might not explicitly fully accept what Kant is saying. They might not fully accept that, our perceptions are completely illusions, or that, or they might not explicitly know that that's the belief they hold, or the idea they accept. But this is still having some effect on their psychology and on their actions, even if it's just a little doubt in the back of their mind, like, yeah, but how do you know that's actually true? Like, right? Can you know anything's true? Is truth even a real thing? And that has major consequences. And what's even crazier is the more seriously you take ideas, the more destructive accepting these ideas will be for you. So if you take ideas really seriously, like, I want to live a consistent life. How do you consistently live by the idea that reality is fake? Reality is an illusion. Like, what the fuck are you supposed to do with that? Also, there's also a contradiction in even claiming that perception is an illusion. If perception is an illusion, nothing is real, and therefore all of our concepts, our ideas, our knowledge is based on an illusion and is therefore invalid, then all knowledge is invalid, including your claim to knowledge that perception is an illusion. That's a knowledge claim. That's a truth claim. But if that is true, you have a contradiction, because then that truth claim is also invalid, because it's based on an illusion. So that just came to my mind. Inner contradiction there. I mean, chat, is there anyone here? No, I don't think so. Chat, am I missing anything? Like, does this make sense to you? Because this does not make sense to me. It says I have one viewer. Might be me. All right, well, whatever. Back at it. All right, so we really dug into Kant there. Yeah, skepticism has a really destructive effect on your psychology. And that's what Kant's, again, assuming what Rand is claiming about Kant is true, his epistemology would lead to skepticism. Because, again, everything's based on an illusion, therefore you can't know that anything is true. You can't have certainty about anything. If you can't have certainty about anything, I don't know how the fuck you have confidence in anything. How you have any, like, God, I feel like if you truly were a skeptic, like, wouldn't your mind, like, and skeptic in the philosophic sense, not just like being critical. I mean, in the philosophic sense, like, certainty is impossible. How the fuck are you gonna be, like, aren't you gonna be plagued by doubts? Like, that's not a way to live. And also, again, there's also an inner contradiction in skepticism, at least consistent skepticism. Like, you can't be consistently skeptic, because if you can't be certain about anything, then you can't be certain about the claim you can't be certain about anything, so it's contradictory. Skepticism eats itself. Okay, Rand is claiming that all of the modern, well, at least many of the modern philosophies, pragmatism, logical positivism, they all grew out of Kant. Kant's version of the altruist morality, he claimed that. Oh, that's a claim. That's a bold claim. The ultimate monument to Kant, the whole altruist morality of Soviet Russia. Holy shit. That's a claim. Which, I mean, all right, if Kant is saying you must take what is moral is taking action that you derive no benefit from at all. I mean, Soviet Russia, I can see it. I would need more of a breakdown. I mean, for the citizens, I think it would make sense, generally. Like, yeah, they're giving up their life, their freedoms, living in insane conditions. Insane's the wrong word. Horrible, evil, suffering to an extreme degree while leaders profit. I think that's what happened in Soviet Russia. Granted, I don't know much about the history of Soviet Russia. I know some stuff, but not too much. Man, that's wild. It doesn't seem like she's addressing the Soviet Russia claim. Unfortunate. I would have liked to see her do that. All right. So I'm trying to essentialize the claim here. So the two major progress of progress, I think specifically like technological progress and like increases in standard of living and those sorts of things. The two philosophic causes or fundamental causes are reason and the acceptance and use of reason, and political freedom. So reason, like people consistently like understanding what reason is and using it consistently enables you to come up with better ways to live, to come up with new technologies that make our lives better. Political freedom enables people to use reason. It leaves them free from other people stopping them from using reason to come up with better ways to live. So there's the tool, and then there's stopping other people from preventing you from using the tool. It's like reason's the tool. It's the thing that enables all this great shit we have. Political freedom, like, keeps the tool safe, I guess. It makes sure other people don't fuck with you, and don't interfere with your ability to use reason. Because, like, think about it. If, like, I don't know, you have this idea for, like, this new technology that could revolutionize some field, but maybe it's a little dangerous. There are concerns. And there's a bunch of regulation surrounding this technology, or there's a bunch of regulation getting in the way of you implementing this technology or creating it. That stifles innovation. Okay, my timer just went off. We gotta go, boys. We gotta go. Good session. Feel like we got decently far. This was a little different. I was a bit more rambly today, so hopefully y'all like that, or if you didn't, let me know. Hopefully we got some fire clips from that, but we'll see. Anyways, so I will see you guys. I don't know when. I'm going to be on a trip for a few weeks, so I don't know if I'll be streaming that often. I definitely won't be streaming that often for the next few weeks, or for the next week. After that, I might do a few more streams, but it's going to be going to be a bit inconsistent for the next few weeks. We'll be back for sure July 2nd-ish, around that time, and then we'll get back to a consistent routine. But anyways, love y'all. Hope y'all have a good rest of your day, and yeah, keep crushing it, boys.